Hey there! Today we're going to talk about a pen that was recommended to me by B.R.E, and B.R.E said you should check it out, and I checked it out, and I thought, oh yeah. It was a pen that was sold on eBay by StephenBrown. I think some of you will be familiar with him. He sells a lot of pens. I heard nothing but positive things about his service, and I couldn't agree more. Very fast shipping and an excellent product. And the product is a Pilot Crystal. I have to be honest, I'd never heard of that pen, but it's a demonstrator, and you know I have a soft spot for demonstrators. Also, it's a Pilot, so you know you'll be getting a high quality pen. I thought it's quite interesting. So what you have here is this box with a little bit of cardboard, and then you have the actual box with the pen, which is a fairly decent box actually. It's pretty nicely done for a pen of this price caliber. I think it's fairly nice. So you open it up, you have a little sort of elastic band keeping the pen in place. Take the pen out. This is really nice soft material, well made, and this doesn't come out or anything, so there's no cartridge in there or instruction booklets or whatever, just this box. And it actually says Pilot, so I'm sure this is the box it should be sold in. And here we have the pen. So I'm going to cover the parts of the pen, say what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and I'll do a writing sample. How about that? Let's start with the pen. I think it's an interesting pen. It's not extremely expensive, and it has some interesting features going for it. So let's start with the cap. Clear plastic, gold clip. It's not really gold, of course. It has that little slit in there, which I think is fairly interesting. As you can see, it's stickered. It says Pilot Crystal F and then some odd symbol, which I'm not absolutely sure how to interpret that. Then down there you have a little center band, gold, and that's pretty much it for the cap. It may look like it's a screw cap, but actually it's just a slip cap. We have the barrel. We get a little gold ring. I'm just going to take this off. A little gold ring. Right there, and then we have the end of the barrel, and then we have that little sort of, well, call it almost looks like a piston turning knob. It's threaded. I'm not fully unsure why. You can take this off, and you can also take off that gold ring. Clearly this is going to be a bit of an issue should you want to convert this to an eyedropper, something many people like doing with their demonstrators. It's a little bit of a problem with this specific pen, I'm afraid. Of course, you could put some silicone grease on that, the threads of that little blind cap thingy, but I haven't tried it. I think it's doable because you can grease up those threads, but I'm not sure whether it would work. Unscrew the barrel, and then you get this nice aerometric style cartridge converter. It says press here, Pilot, and something else. What does it say? Oh, 8902. I'm not sure whether that's a serial number or whatever. You have to be a little careful with this pen, because once things are unscrewed, things can actually come off. This metal ring, for example, you see how easy that slips off, so be careful you don't lose that. I'm not sure whether it's just my pen, but that's it's a little odd. So aerometric converter, dip it in the ink and just squeeze that where it says press here. It'll compress the sac, then decompress it, and it'll draw itself full of ink. I know I'm not in focus, there I go. I'm just going to put that back in place, and that converter, by the way, can be removed. You can just pull it out straight, so if you want to use cartridges, then I suppose that's possible too. Okay, let's have a look at the nib. It's an interesting nib. It says Pilot and F on there. It sure is fine, but I mean it is a Japanese fine, so you can be pretty sure you're getting a really fine nib then. And as you can see, I love that when the section is transparent too, so you can see that green stuff is ink. So you can see the bit of the nib right in there, then you have the feed, and on the other side you have the feed, and this feed is clear. It is one of those clear feeds. It's green now. That's because of the ink. Now, unlike with the Monteverde Artista Cristal, which also has this a clear feed, that is really crystal clear. This was a bit yellowish, a fairly solid slab of slightly yellowish plastic, but still it is sort of see-through, and you can see the ink in there, which I think is a very cool feature. Alright, I think that covers the parts of the pen. I should just show you how big it is. As you can see, definitely for me, it's something I can use unposted. But if you want to, you can also post it. And then I would say you have a fairly big pen. The final thing I should probably show you, I haven't shown you that yet, sorry, is this section. Completely smooth, no texture, little gold thing with a lip to keep the cap in place at the end. And although it is smooth, I don't find it slippery. It's pretty nice to hold. It's tapered and it has some structure to it. It's almost impossible to see, but around this point there is a little ridge, and then it gets even. It tapers even more, which makes it very pleasant to hold. Okay, so that's that. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? Well, it's a demonstrator. It wasn't particularly expensive. It's affordable. All very cool. I generally like the looks. I know that demonstrators with gold highlights, not everyone likes that. Some people think it's a bit gaudy. I personally, I definitely don't dislike it. I should, if that was not entirely clear, this bit, if you think that is not really nice with the crystal on, it's a sticker, so you can just remove that. The pen writes well, it gives a bit of feedback, but it is a very fine nib. But the best part of this nib is that I would be willing to go so far as to call it semi-flex. It actually gives you quite a bit of line variation, and in a pen of this price class, to be honest, I forgot what I paid for this, but it was close to the $20 mark, something like that. Not a whole lot. I think that's a very decent thing and a very nice deal that you get a semi-flex nib. Definitely not full flex, but it is more, I would say it's more than just springiness to it. Okay, what do I not like about it? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I already said that some of these gold colored rings, they just pop off very easily. And even here, with the cap, you see that nice center band. Well, it just slides off. So that's kind of weird. And you see some type of orange stuff there, which looks a bit like shellac. I'm not sure whether that's the glue that came off. Now maybe, of course, I only have one exemplar of this pen, so maybe that's just my pen. And usually it does not come off. It's just this one. I cannot be sure about that. One thing I find a little bit annoying is that the cap, as you can see here, it's quite loose. It will not pop off. It's on there securely, but it just rotates. It's not. It doesn't click in place very tightly, and I find that a little bit. I don't know. It looks a little cheap. But as I said, it's not going to pop off accidentally. You actually need to exert some strength to uncap the pen. So whether that's an issue, I think it's a bit of an aesthetic issue. Apart from that, I like the pen. I think it's a pretty cool pen for this price. Let's take some measurements and then we'll do a writing sample. Okay, it's not the smallest of pens out there. Capped, it is about 139 millimeters. Okay, then I try to do this. Uncapped. Then I come to about 121 millimeters. Then let's just take the diameter of the section at the narrowest point. That's just below this lip. We have a good 8 millimeters, a little over that, somewhere in the middle, just below the point where it actually gets broader. We have 10 millimeters, and then all the way near the bottom end, so where it meets the barrel, we have 11 millimeters. Then I just like to take a weight measurement. I have to grab my scale there. I am expecting this is going to be a very light pen because it weighs almost nothing. Yeah, inked up, I would say it's about 15 grams, so it's a very light pen. Of course, a lot of plastic, so that was to be expected. So there you have it, the Pilot Crystal, an interesting pen. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Alright, so here we go with... Too much stuff in the way, there we go. With the Pilot Crystal. We're talking about a fine nib, and the ink is Mont Blanc Irish Green. You see, it's lovely. And the paper is Rhodia, is it? Yes. Okay, so the quick brown fox jumped over. The little leprechaun. Alright, how about a bit of fast writing? So I feel feedback when I write, but this is a super fine nib. I mean, I'm not sure whether it actually is a sensible thing to try and make this. There we go. So we got this really fine nib, but what I have here is a Delta Dolce Vita broad nib. Now, not only is that nib a lot bigger, but as you can see just from the tipping material, you see how insanely fine this nib is. Nothing wrong with that. It just, you know, it's what it is. Okay, I'm gonna cap this and write on. Let's do a bit of fast writing. How about that? Note how it writes straight away, even though it has been uncapped for a while. No hard starts, no skips, etc. The only thing that this pen is a little bit prone to is getting paper fiber in the nib, because it's so fine. You hear the sound probably, and it's especially in these diagonals. That's where I feel the scratch. This is better. So maybe I want to smooth it out, but actually I think this feedback goes with the nib. It's just the way it is. It's very fine, so that happens. Alright, now the part you've all been waiting for, flexibility. Well, first I just want to check out wetness. As you can see, even though this is a fine nib, it's pretty decent, and it's fairly, I mean, I would say it's on the wet side. For such a fine nib, it lays down a pretty decent amount of ink, which is nice. Okay, now this line variation. Well, this is no pressure. I would say that's pretty much a hairline. My go-to pen for fineness is the Platinum Carbon pen. As you can see, that lays down a very fine line, and if you absolutely have to know, this is what a Delta Dolce Vita does. So I'm sure that we all agree that this is a very fine line. Now, interestingly enough, when you start to apply more pressure, the tines of almost any pen will open up a bit, apart from that desk pen I've just shown you. But with this pen, it doesn't feel like you're forcing anything. That's why I said it might well be called semi-flex. So let's write a word. This is the feed that is touching the paper. It's giving that sort of shadow. Align it a little bit more like this. Pretty interesting line variation for a $20 pen or whatever I paid for it. I honestly can't remember, but check it out. Pilot Crystal, eBay, etc. And it springs back very easily. I mean, some pens I do this and I think, okay, I shouldn't force it, but with this one it really feels like the nib can take it, a bit like an Amici Falcon or a pen like that. Very interesting. I really love it. So I think the final thing we should do is try to write reverse. And as you can see, the pen has issues with that. It doesn't like that. It runs almost dry. But, you know, there we are. Here you have it. I think it's a very fascinating pen. It's much more interesting than I thought it was. I bought it for the looks, but what I got was an interesting writer. And that's very, very cool. So I hope this was useful. I'm willing to overlook a little bit of feedback in this nib because it's so much fun to play around with. And that's all there's to it. Bye bye.